So with the start of Season of the Wish, a lot of exotics got buff or reworks with the intention of bringing them back into the meta. Hunters got a few buffs for exotics that benefit solar hunters, including Shards of Galanor, Ophidia Spathe, and Celestial Nighthawk. This video is going to focus on Shards of Galanor, which is the Blade Barrage exotic. So what was the rework and how does this exotic work now? Well, Shards of Galanor refunds your super energy up to a maximum of 50% energy on Blade Barrage hits and kills. The refund amount depends on the number of kills and hits that you get, in addition to the enemy rank that was hit. This buff that it received was that your throwing knife now grants between 2.5 and 5% super energy per kill depending on the enemy rank. That's it. That's the buff. It sounds really minimal, but what we notice is that when you pair this with hands-on, the amount of super energy you get per melee kill is actually unreasonable. Blade Barrage without Star Eater scales isn't the best damage, but it's okay because you're getting so many supers off that it's still pretty good in certain activities such as raid encounters like Confluxes, where you can Blade Barrage Wyverns nonstop, the Abyss and Crota if you decide to use your Blade Barrage for ad clear, dungeon encounters like Duality's Vault, you're going to be getting so many supers, and even in something like Gambit where you can get your super very quickly. Being said, I would advise you don't use this in higher tier Nightfalls or GMs or Master Raids because it's not the safest build and there are just much better options for those activities on a hunter. So Solar Hunter has so many great aspects and fragments that choosing which ones is pretty tedious. In terms of aspects, I really like Knock 'em Down and Gunpowder Gamble. Knock 'em Down is a must because that's the one that gives you your melee back off of each melee kill while radiant, while Gunpowder Gamble is just nice for more ad clear via the ignition. If you're not a fan of Gunpowder Gamble, On Your Mark is still great and it gives you that extra fragment slot. In terms of fragments, the ones I like the most are Empyrean to extend restoration and Radiant on solar kills. Singeing is nice for the class regen, and Searing is nice for the fire sprites that gives you the grenade regen. I also like Torches to easily get Radiant. I know this season there is an artifact mod that makes solar kills give you Radiant, so you could opt for that and choose a different fragment instead, but I like the guaranteed source of Radiant, which is why I choose Torches. Some other popular fragments are Beams, which gives you that increased super projectile acquisition. Blistering will get you grenade backs on your ignitions, which works very well with Gunpowder Gamble, and then Ashes and the Char combo for that Scorch Ignition duo. If you're using Torches, Benevolence isn't bad either because it will give you that increased class ability and grenade regen. The melee is your choice. I like Proximity and Knife Trick the most. Weighted isn't bad if you're using the Scorch mod on the artifact and you want to get off a million ignitions, but it's obviously going to be a lot harder to consistently get those kills. Weighted is also nice because it gives you your class ability back on ignition or on precision hits. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of Lightweight Knife because I think getting Radiant isn't too hard anyway, and that knife just isn't going to be as usable as something like Knife Trick, Proximity, or Weighted. In terms of mods that work really well with Shards of Galanor, Helmet, you want double hands-on. This gives you your super back so quickly. On your gauntlets, Impact Induction, Heavy-Handed, and a Harmonic Reloader are my choices. Chest piece, I would base this off of the activity you're doing. On your legs, Recuperation, Innervation, and Invigoration are my choices. And then on your class ability, any combination of Bomber, Reaper, Powerful Attraction, Distribution, and so on will do you just fine. The most important thing here is that you have double hands-on and something like Impact Induction and Heavy-Handed on your gauntlets. Everything else is really up to you. This season does have a really good set of solar artifact mods with Flint Striker, Kindling Trigger, Revitalizing Blast, and Rays of Precision. I highly recommend if you're using this in Season 23 that you pair these with these artifact mods. What weapons would you pair this with? Well, any solar weapon will work, but I think the best one is definitely Sunshot. Other weapons will work, but Sunshot is so good that I see zero reason to not use it. This season, Hand Cannon is unstop, so you have intrinsic unstop with that Sunshot, and in addition to that, Ignitions are also intrinsic unstoppable, so your Gunpowder Gamble is also going to be unstop. Radiant is intrinsic anti-barrier, so by just using Torches or the artifact mod, you're going to have your other weapons be anti-barrier. So lastly, the only champion type that this can't just immediately deal with is overloads. So you need to use an overload weapon, which is pulse rifle, auto rifle, or even a rocket launcher this season. So the gameplay loop is very simple. You throw a knife, and then you throw a knife, and then you throw a knife, and then you super, and then you throw a knife. While doing this, you can shoot enemies with Sunshot to scorch them and throw a knife. And if you're using weighted knife, that's going to cause an ignition. You can throw some gunpowder gambles here and there, but that's basically it. I think this rework was very well done. I think it's a good rework. It's not too strong, but it's also not a useless exotic anymore. The increased super energy, I think, is very nice, especially in things like Gambit. I was playing Gambit with it earlier, and I was consistently getting 3, 4, sometimes even 5 supers per match. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Shards of Galanor rework.